Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. This is an expensive 3, pretty much. There are some flat 3s, though, I should say, across the industry in favor of the Lions. 51.5 is our total. Of course, this also indoors, fast track, perfect weather conditions. We do not have to worry about any of that nonsense. Adam, we know what the story is. We've heard. We know already. Here goes. It's Stafford back to Detroit. It's Goff versus the Rams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is that. It's the first meeting between these two teams this season. And if you take a look, there's going to be one very key piece that's going to be down. And Sam Laporta is a very key piece of this offense for the Lions. I think a very underrated piece of this offense for this Lions, because Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and all that gets a lot of love, and as they should. But Laporte, this went from being a very good offense last year to an elite offense this year, and I believe, I am of the mindset that it is because of Laporta and what he was able to do over the middle of the field. I think it's a really big loss for the Lions.
It's an enormous loss for the Lions. It's especially enormous in the red zone, where when they don't run, Sam Laporta is the guy who they're looking for. So that leads me to believe that despite where this total has blasted off to, I think this is a sneaky little under this week because of the Laporta injury, and because I don't think the market is remembering how Sean McVay approaches games when he gets ahead, because there's not a coach in the league who plays slower with more than a 7-point lead than Sean McVay. He's going to shut this whole thing down if they get up. So there are not a lot of game states that I see here. As someone who believes the Rams are probably the right side in this game, I'm less convicted on that part than I am on the total. If I were to play this, I probably would just play Rams money line instead of sitting around and waiting on the 3, because I think if the Rams offense is right, that's kind of going to be it, considering the Sam Laporta injury. So for me, under 51.5 is the look, largely because I don't know that Detroit's offense is going to be able to hum in quite the same way, and because I know from years of watching Sean McVay that if they get the lead in this game, it is going to be run for him.
If we look, this Lions offensive line, Steven, graded out as the second best offensive line in the NFL this season, according to Pro Football Focus. Frank Ragnow was the highest graded center in the NFL. Penei Sewell got a 93.1 run blocking grade over the course of 2023. That is the second highest by an offensive tackle in the last 5 years, according to Pro Football Focus. So very good offensive line, a couple of very good standouts as well that are experts in what they do for this Lions team, which has in fact helped this team along the way as well, because Jared Goff, when not pressured, Jared Goff, when there is the threat of a run game, and so the defense can't just pin their ears back and come after him, has been a really effective quarterback, whether you want to admit it or not. I know I know there's Goff haters out there, but Goff has been very, very good. If you give him time to throw, he's had a really, really good season. And so all that being said, I did tuck a 3.5 in the account on the Rams. I still would, it's probably going to get to 3.5 again. There are a bunch of expensive 3s out there. Like, I think this will tick back and forth between 3 and 3.5. And on the other side of a field goal, I just have a tough time getting there. Like Adam said, Laporta is such a massive part of this offense in the red zone. He is such a massive chain mover. And I get it that you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is a beast. There is no doubt about it. He has a 30% target share over the last 4 weeks, 36% of the air yards for Jared Goff over the last 4 weeks. Like, literally 1/3 of every yard the ball has traveled in the air has gone to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's an absolute beast, but I just don't know if this thing runs as smooth as it has if he's a one-man show. And so with that, I thought more than a field goal was too much, and I took the Rams.
So I want to start with a player prop, since you mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown, and with our belief that Laporta is not going to go, or if he even tries, is probably not going to be all that effective. I laddered Amon-Ra St. Brown receptions, and I found plus money using our prop finder tool on 8+. So I put half a unit on 8+. I put a quarter unit on 10+ at 3-1. And then I split an eighth of a unit on 12+ and 13+ at 6 and 8-1. So it's 1 unit total. If he gets his 8+, it's break even at worst. And if the full ladder hits, you're getting 3-1 payback on that. So I think the matchup is great. You add to Laporta being out and more targets to the Sun God. You also get a Rams defense that I've watched over and over again this year just say, we're not giving you anything deep, we're not giving you any chunk plays, and we're content to give you some stuff underneath, which is exactly where St. Brown eats in this offense and where Jared Goff looks for him. So I think he's going to be able to get plenty of action here. And if I'm right that the Rams have a much higher probability of winning this game than what the current odds dictate, we might actually get some negative game script here to add to the passing volume for Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. Now, I bet 3.5 on the Rams. I don't know if it's coming back. You guys seem confident that it will be. If it does, I would still tell people to bet it. I agree with the under as well. I do think you guys make good points on that. I'm not anywhere near as bullish on the over here as I am on the Dallas and the Green Bay game. So I guess, Matt, the only question I have is, how would this go wrong for the Rams? Because I said coming into the playoffs that this was my sleeper team. I thought that they could upset the apple cart in the NFC. If it goes wrong for the Rams, it's typically because Matthew Stafford gets pressured and melts when he gets pressured. And for what it's worth, the Lions did have the number 1 pressure rate this season. So I guess that's where I would be concerned.
And on the flip side, them getting no pressure on Goff, because they don't, the Rams don't get any pressure on the quarterback. They're in the bottom, I think 6 or 7 in the league as far as quarterback pressures this year. They don't blitz very often, so it's not like they're trying to do that with it because they can't, because of the personnel that they've got. And so, I mean, I think where it could go wrong is kind of what you said. Like, they're able to get to Stafford. They're not able to get to Goff. Goff throws from a clean pocket all game. He goes for 320 yards against this team, and they end up just getting, beat by 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if everything that you've heard us say doesn't give you conviction on a side or a total to bet here, then my advice would be watch the game, watch the first quarter or so. And if it's clear that the Rams are having trouble protecting, well, then I would live bet the Lions in that game. And if it's clear that the Rams are doing just fine with protection, then I'd probably still be very confident in the Rams in that game. So that's really the biggest thing I would look for here.
Adam, I guess the kind of the closing thought here in this one is, if we're talking, the difference between 3 and 3.5 is big, right? And you said you're more inclined to play the Rams than not. If this were to, and we see some 15s, there's an 18 juiced 3 out there. So, I mean, we might see this thing kind of, it's going to be short. Like, you're going to have to be paying attention. It's probably going to get gobbled up when it does hit. Would you recommend, if it hit the 3.5 on the other side of the 3, would you be a buyer at that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Matt, if we're talking about cheap 3.5, right? Like, I should say, if we're talking about expensive 3.5, apologies, we're looking at what, if you're getting 3.5 at 15, if you're getting 3.5 at 20, there's only one number that you're going to buy the half point on that way, right? And I'm not saying traditional go out and buy the half point. I'm just saying, if you have to pay a little bit more, it's only between 3 and 3.5. Those are the only numbers that you should be doing it on. Don't do it on 7. Don't do it on 6. If you're going to do it on 3. However, for me, the way that I look at this game, I believe that if the Rams offense clicks, I don't think you're going to have to worry about those points. I don't see where Detroit's offense, if it's truly minus Laporta, that I don't really see that the Lions offense is going to be able to keep up in that way. So for me, I would prefer, with where it is right now, if I don't want to have to sit around all weekend and wait to try to find that price, Rams money line right now, probably up to, I'm seeing it plus 140. I'm sure you could probably find a little bit better out there if you go to lines and use the tools.
One other thing I would say, this is the primetime game on Sunday, standalone. Carrie Underwood's going to be doing her thing, all that before the game. If we want to play an under, it wouldn't surprise me if this thing ends up getting 52 and a half, maybe even, depending on how the public does that day, even as high as 53, because this is not even just your typical standalone night game on Sunday. Like, this is a playoff night game on Sunday. Like, it's going to get massive attention. There's going to be a lot of casual bettors come in and play this game. We know that Lions fans, Detroit fans are going to be extra excited for this game and ready to fire on this puppy. And so that's the other reason why I think the 3.5 might come back, is I think that the exuberance around the Lions might get this thing bumped to 3.5 again. I also think it could see this total hit 52.5, and again, maybe even 53 before it's all said and done. I think we could finally see one of those, what we used to get in primetime games as far as over pushes. I think this could be one of those games where we might actually get that. If it doesn't come to fruition, don't angry tweet me, all right? I'm just saying, this is what I think, all right? I'm just prognosticating around here.
Matt, the one thing it's not doing is going down, right? Like, you can feel damn confident in that. If anything, it will sit still. But if it's going to move one way, it's going to move up. And to your point, just think about what NFL scores can look like. 52 is pretty important if you want that.
Yeah. And Matt, absolutely. Just full disclosure for everybody before we move on here, because we're all pessimistic that Laporta is going to play, but we're recording this on late Thursday night, and he's already getting a little bit more in practice than I expected him to. He did get a few reps at practice. His quote, not mine, not reporters, straight from the horse's mouth from Sam Laporta talking to reporters today. He said, quote, "Yeah, I'm optimistic." And he said he was taking some blocking reps and doing some individual routes with Jared Goff. So maybe it's gamesmanship on a playoff week to make the Rams prepare for him. I don't know, but I think at this juncture, we would just be wise to tell everybody to keep an eye on his status.
Yeah, it's so my best guess is it's a Will Anderson situation, that like he's active, but he plays 10, 12 snaps if he's actually active. Like, he can say he's getting blocking reps. He's got a knee injury. His ass ain't out there blocking. Yeah. His ass ain't out there blocking. I can promise you. Like, it doesn't matter. He's got a knee injury. They are not having him block.
Guys, can you believe that a game involving the Detroit Lions in the playoffs is going to come down to a kneecap? Man, Campbell must be so upset.
Hey-oh! There we go. Actually, he's loving it. Like, he's just sitting there. He's like, you want to fix that kneecap for you? Oh, no.
Yeah, except in this case, they're not biting kneecaps. It's a kneecap that's going to bite them in the ass, as it turns out.
Yeah, it is amazing. But again, it's a good disclaimer though, Stephen. But my guess would be, even if he's air quote active, it's like red zone inside the 5-yard line, like those type of deals.